item is the, does anybody have anything they want to add or subtract from the agenda? Seeing and saying, okay. The next meeting of the council in September is at 3, but the legislature has a budget session that's scheduled for, oh, is it 4:30? Which means that we would run into each other if we were to meet at our scheduled time. So it's proposed that we reschedule to a 2 o'clock start time to make sure that there's time for both meetings without overlapping. Any thoughts on that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, well then why don't we, I move that we reschedule to that 2 o'clock time. Who was that?
Mark, that was you, right?
That was me. Might have been
Okay.
someone else too, but
Yeah, yes. Any discussion? If not, let's see. We need to have a record of this. So if you're visible, we could have raised hands or say aye.
Correct. If
Aye.
camera's on.
Aye.
Kate, you'll need to turn your camera on. Thank you. Linda,
And did you get it? Did you get all the ayes?
just lacking Linda.
Sorry, I can't find the thing and my camera is not working. I really apologize.
As long
Well,
as
you could
we're
just say aye.
Aye. Aye,
Aye.
Yes.
there. Finally.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? I see none. Okay, so we're good. Minutes. I trust everybody's had a chance to read the minutes. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move them.
I'll second
And
it.
move. Who's the second?
Second.
Bob. So
Oh.
Dan moved and Bob seconded. And any corrections or additions? They look pretty good to me. Okay, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand or both.
Aye.
Aye.
It sounded like
I'll-
the shadowy. Anyone opposed? Or abstaining?
I'm going to abstain because I didn't get a copy of them.
You didn't?
Hmm.
Yeah,
I don't know where they went. Sorry.
yeah. So you want to check and make sure you got Ruth's address?
They were distributed in the agenda, so if you received an agenda, it would be in there.
Yeah, but you probably didn't get the agenda either, right?
I did not.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, reports from county administration. Who's here to do that?
Hello, everyone. I'm Norma Jane. I'm a Deputy County Administrator, kind of filling in for Lisa today. We don't have
Welcome, Norm.
thank you. We don't have a lot to report. We're still working along at the 2025 budget. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have, but there's not a lot to report right now.
Based on what Linda told us last time, it looked like you were trying hard to minimize the tax increase, but we're struggling with a lot of potential over targets.
Yes, we've directed the county departments to come in with a 5% reduction. County departments and agencies that are non-mandated accounts. So so we've been working along, and yes, we have a lot of over target requests, either asking for some reinstatement due to the difficulty it will be to handle their programs without those funds.
The legislature meeting as a body to deal with that, or are there committees?
The expanded budget committee will begin their meetings in early September. The first one, I think, is September 5th. And there'll be there'll be several. We have, I think, 6 scheduled. I can give you those dates if you'd like them, or send them over to be included in the minutes, if that would be helpful. Also, there'll be a public forum on September 30th. Open, it'll be a hybrid meeting at the legislature beginning at 5:30. That's the current plan anyway. That has not been posted yet.
Yeah. What was that date again?
September 30th, there'll be a public forum.
Yeah.
Our plan
Right.
currently, tentatively, is to begin at 5:30 in the county
Yeah.
legislature chambers, and it will be a hybrid meeting.
And those are all very well attended, as I recall.
Last year, we had very few attendance, but I guess we probably will have some attendance this year with the cuts that we've had to. We will not be able to replace all of those cuts when it comes
Always have
around.
lobbying at that juncture. Okay. Any questions for Norman? Thank you. That was blissfully concise. Next up, culvert data management and stormwater financial planning. Who's presenting on that topic?
Hi, Michelle Wright is going to present, but hi, this is Darby Kiley.
Hi,
And
Darby.
I'm representing the Water Resources Council's Municipal Training Committee to introduce Michelle. So that's a committee that has been working on training for either municipal officials or staff over the years. And so some of you have participated in those in the past. Last year we did an online mapping training, mapping and planning resources training. And before that, we did a Streams 101 for highway and municipal staff. And so we'll be continuing on that with the next iteration this year. But in our discussions with this municipal training group, one of our other members, Kristen Hitchka from the Water Resources Institute, heard Michelle do this talk at another event. So she's presented at the Association of Towns meeting in the past, and then with the local government unit for New York State Department of State. And we thought, wow, we should be able to have this conversation here in Tompkins County, since she's the deputy supervisor in the town of Ulysses. So just thought you guys might want to hear what she's been working on for their culvert management or asset management, and see if we need to want to do any follow-up or what the future is. So I'll just turn it over to Michelle. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm wondering whether you're here in a dual capacity, but I see Caitlin's here too.
Yep. I'm gonna start this slideshow that I put together. Is that working for everybody?
Yes.
Cool, great. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Darby, for introducing me. I work as right now my title is Second Deputy Supervisor and Budget Officer for the town of Ulysses. And Darby asked me to come share what we've been doing over in Ulysses around this topic. And I've given this topic before. Darby mentioned that I spoke at Department of State, and it was I spoke to a staff person after I spoke at that meeting, and he said that he thought most people, I was speaking over the heads of most people. So I really want this to be super accessible, and the information that I go over, and I want it to be relevant. So if at any time there's something that I'm saying that doesn't make sense, or you need me to back up in some way, let me know. I could talk about culverts all day. I don't know why I'm so interested in them, but turns out that I love them. I love talking about them. And so what we've been up to over at the town of Ulysses for the past few years is trying to get all of our asset data wrangled, which means that now we have a very simple asset database that really it's just a repository of information. It's not high tech by any means, but we now have all of town-owned data assets in a database, which is a big deal for us because it really is the foundation of multi-year planning. There wouldn't be anywhere to start with town-wide financial planning, far future planning, if we didn't have this asset data organized in a database. So once again, when I say assets, I mean local assets, anything that the town owns, from street signs to these culverts to the equipment that we have. It's now all in a database, which that was a multi-year project. So specifically as it pertains to culverts, we have a vast majority of our culverts are now in that database. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But first and foremost, I want to make it clear that I am not an expert in stormwater. I'm not an expert in culverts. I'm not even an expert in multi-year financial planning, but as the budget officer for the town and as the second deputy supervisor, I've been ticking away at this as a way of trying to build the town's capacity for multi-year planning. And so I'll get into that a little bit more in just a little bit. So the other thing I wanted to mention, just because I'm guessing most people in the room understand what a culvert is, but if you don't understand what a culvert is, it is a piece of pipe or a structure of some sort that carries water, either streams or stormwater under a road is the simple way of putting it. And if anybody has a more defined understanding of culverts, feel free to pipe in here. But I am by no means.
So not included are driveway culverts then?
Yeah, driveway culverts, that's a great question, because we don't have any of those mapped. I'm pretty sure we're just talking about, well, I think we have some of them mapped. Driveways that's a really interesting question, actually. I'm sure everybody's going to deal with it differently. So some driveway culverts, but this is mostly dealing with town-owned roads. The culverts on those town-owned roads are 100% our fiscal responsibility to maintain and replace. So it's focused mostly on those structures. So I just want to emphasize again that the reason why this is, drilling down into culvert asset data management is a huge deal for the town, because once we started really doing the math, so step one, get your culvert assets lined up. Step two, create a culvert asset plan. And of course, there's lots in between there, but those are the broad strokes. Once we have a super simple culvert replacement plan that really outlines just how large this fiscal responsibility is in the next 10, 20, 50 years. And knowing where we're at and having a plan to shoot for helps me sleep easier at night anyway. I will say that the thing about a culvert inventory for your municipality, Tompkins County Soil and Water has a lot of culvert data. We have a couple spot areas that we don't have culvert data for, but it's not as simple as you get your highway staff to go drive around your municipality and they can make a list. It's not like that, because there's often culverts that are hidden from the roadway, for instance. And your highway staff might know anecdotally where most of your culverts are, but getting them on a list really is the only way that you can plan for the future in a really systematic way. So this is a picture of a culvert. This looks like a bridge, doesn't it? But New York State calls it a culvert because of its width. And this is sort of the structure that started my path in Ulysses for getting all of this stuff lined up, because it was this culvert. We do have funding for it now, but it's taken us about 10 years to get funding for this particular culvert, but it's 100% the town's fiscal responsibility. And when it's replaced, it's going to cost as much as a bridge to replace. So this is the structure that started the trouble, I'll say, or solved a lot of problems for the town. That we're doing. So at this point, the current state of where we're at in Ulysses is that we have a culvert replacement plan. We have some basic understanding of what data is missing, but there is a full audit that's needed. We're not the gold standard by any means at this point. We really want to move away from, and by the way, I'll just say that our highway superintendent is, or our DPW superintendent is 100% on board. He's super helpful with all this, but isn't able to do the data management himself. But we want to move away from a road washout. We have to replace that culvert, to knowing what culverts are in what state and being able to prioritize them. So we're edging towards that. And I will say that with all the work that we've done with our culvert assets, that culvert plan, the ability to prioritize, has led us to the ability of obtaining, at this point, the past few years, we've obtained over $2.4 million for culvert replacements, including the one that's on the screen right now. So getting your culvert assets managed allows you to really be able to strategically plan and apply for funding. The other thing I'll say is that it's really clear when we put together our capital plan, it's really clear that the tax levy is not even going to come close to touching this, that we're going to rely heavily on Bridge New York, DEC clean water, capital grants and that sort of thing. So we will not, our tax base is not going to support this culvert maintenance and replacement that's absolutely needed. The other thing I'll say is that we're very much hamstringed right now in the way that we can function because our culvert asset data is not mapped spatially. We don't have it mapped to GIS. There's opportunities there that it's sort of like my main pitch to you all today that I'll get to in just a few minutes here. I do want to point out some amazing resources that we all have here in Tompkins County. Angel's here today from Soil and Water, and I don't think we would have an asset database today if it wasn't for Tompkins County Soil and Water. We used the data that they provided as the basis to repeat across all town assets. We used their standard for data collection to get asset data points on all of town-owned assets. So Angel's here today for any follow-up questions, and hopefully I can talk fast enough that she might have a few minutes. And Angel, feel free to jump in at any point if there's anything here that you want to say. We've just started working super preliminary and haven't really been able to do the work that I know we'll eventually be able to with the Cornell Culvert program. That is not a design level program, but sort of a big picture way of understanding how your culverts are functioning. I don't have enough time to really go into that at all. Maybe Jared can come talk to TCOG. He's the person over at Cornell Culvert Program. That's a great resource. You can at least Google it and email Jared. I would highly suggest everybody look into that. Those two resources are amazing. I will say there's resources that are provided by the state through the comptroller's office, but those multi-year planning tools that they provide, I don't think are adequate to what I'm seeing, the capabilities at the local level. There's a gap in technical support there, in my personal opinion. But
With
what
contact with Cornell, the Cornell Culvert program?
say it again?
Who's the contact for the Cornell?
His name's Jared. And maybe I can pull up his email fairly easily here and give it to you. I could put it in the chat too, if that makes sense.
Sure, and we can get it in the minutes that way.
Sure, yeah. Actually, there is no chat, is there?
Nope, our chat is not active, so you could just shoot that in an email to me and I can send that to members.
Okay, cool. I'll give it to you verbally right now. It's jp2537@cornell.edu. Yeah. So I would love to see something coordinated happening in Tompkins County around asset data management and GIS. There is a great model that's already happening in Western New York. I think it's like the 8 most counties in Western New York are all part of the Southern Tier West Regional Planning and Development Board. And what they've done right now today, the vast majority of the highway departments in Western New York are utilizing GIS to maintain and manage their asset data. So they have highway crews all across Western New York are using their smartphones, and when they touch an asset, if they clear a culvert, for instance, or they put in a street sign, they're updating it, they're taking a picture, and they're putting it's live data. And the reason they're able to do that is because of the cooperation and the budgeting done by the Planning and Development Board, the Southern Tier West Planning and Development Board. they have created a position where they've staffed a GIS person who operates as the problem solver, technical support middle person between the GIS software and all of the municipalities. So I think they probably got a great deal on subscriptions and fees and licenses through GIS because they pulled all that together, and they're staffing this person who helps with all the problems that can come up with software. But they were astounded by the response level. The participation rate in those 8 counties is huge. And they weren't expecting the response that they had as far as participation goes. But what that means is that that part of the state is now modernized. They can all now plan in a super elegant way that, at least the town of Ulysses isn't even close to doing because of the lack of technical resources that we have. We're just under 5,000 people. So I think there's a real opportunity for cooperation on that. And I know that, I don't know how it gets done, but there's a model of how it's functioning really well. So I just want to make sure that everybody was aware of that program. It's pretty amazing. So I'm trying to stay within the allotted time here. If there's one thing that I could suggest, if you want to start today on this process, it seems a little silly, but really pictures say 1,000 words. Start saving pictures, and it goes a long way as far as getting grant funding goes. We have a great newsletter that goes out to a lot of people, and we ask people to send pictures of flooding, which is how we got the flooding pictures here. And I can't tell you the impact that has on our ability to apply for grants. It's been super helpful. So I just wanted one tangible takeaway, which is that you could start collecting pictures today of flooding events. And you could even do it, even if there hasn't been a flooding event, you could still ask, and people might have pictures from a couple years ago or something like that. So this is a really big topic, and I just breezed through it. I could talk for another couple hours on this, but yeah, that's what I had planned to say today. So I know we have time for questions and all that. So that's my story.
Stating that you have somehow gotten enthralled by culverts.
Dan, did you have a question?
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. Great presentation. Dryden does maintain an inventory of culverts, but they're difficult. I know, and they vary quite a bit. And my question, I guess, for you is design and cost of culvert replacement seems to really range from the rectangular shaped culvert that you just showed to the round shape. And I guess, since I'm not really steeped in this topic, why is there a preference? I mean, I know we have to put in some culverts, for instance, for our rail trail, where there's a washout where the railroad used to cross, and we're trying to contemplate whether to do a rectangular or a round, and the cost is tremendously different. And I'm wondering where we go for advice on that. Is there a source for design, or do we just rely on our DPW to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question because, just for instance, we have, let's see, I'm going to show you a culvert here. This culvert right here, this is a culvert. This is not a bridge. This is a culvert. We had in 2 different processes, we had 2 different engineering firms suggest what to do with this culvert, and they're drastically different. One's a full replacement and one's a remediation. What I will tell you is ecologically, and you'll get different answers. Well, let me back up. I'll also say DOT has standards that are different from DEC. They're different. They're a different set of standards about the culvert design. So I don't think that there's no silver bullet. I want to say that's not the right term, but there's no end all be all to culvert design. I will say that recently I've heard more and more about how live bottom culverts are preferable for ecological purposes. It's not going, it's just an arch. It's got no material, no culvert material at the bottom, but of course that's so situational where that will work. But no, I don't have a great answer. What I will say is that if you're using funding, you know, if you have a grant fund for design or replacement, you know, construction costs, there'll be different standards based on who that funder is. DEC has different, you know, you have to follow the DEC guidelines for culvert design. If you get money from them, DOT's got another set. And we're really we're able to winnow down now which culverts we think we should apply for in each category based on the conditions of that culvert in that road. For instance, there's a culvert on Agard Road that we're never going to be able to get DOT funding for that because of the design requirements. But DEC, we could get DEC funding for that and know that that's just a more viable route to go down. So sorry, I don't have a good answer. David
That's
Orr.
good, but just a follow up. So DOT or state DOT or a DEC, any other funding sources that we should know about?
Those are the two that I know of.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
DEC's got a number of programs. DEC has we got funding for design that is sort of like the stepping stone to funding for construction. So it's a multi-part, whereas Bridge New York has a bridge program and they have a culvert program. The culvert program is 100% state money, which means there's not as much rigmarole with that, but it's also 100% funded up to 1.5 million. So if you have a culvert that is going to be 1.7, you know, that they only do 1.5. We've had good success with that program. So
Thanks.
yeah.
If you don't mind, I just wanted to add, I didn't hear the whole situation, Dan, with where the culvert was, but the Soil and Water District, we do partner. We have an agreement with Tioga County Soil and Water, and we have an engineer that we work with. So we work with the highway departments and in terms of figuring out sizing of those culverts, what's needed hydraulically. We usually have to survey the site and then run it through programs such as HY8 or HydroCAD. And then we can get at that. The one limitation that we have is we can't go over, like Michelle was mentioning, over 20 feet is considered a bridge. I mean, we can do some preliminary engineering, but right now, Tioga County is considering allowing Brian to do a certain number of bridges a year, but of course, your liability has to increase and all that. The only thing with us is we might need some time, just a few months or something. And it just all depends on how much design you want for a culvert. But I just wanted to throw that out there. And we usually incorporate, if it is a classified stream, we usually invite DEC out there to kind of address all that before we get into design, to make sure that they're going to accept that, because they do have requirements that are a little bit different than DOT.
Okay, this would be near a wetland. I don't think it's classified as a stream, and it would be off our pedestrian commuter trail that is 3/4 built. So is that something that Soil and Water could help with design on?
Potentially, we could come look at it. If you just let me know, location and information and what you need. We can, and I can see when Brian's out in the area, if he can come look at it.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're talking about the rail trail washouts, Dan?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. We have the same situation with the extension of the South Hill Recreation Way, with a couple of big washouts that at some point we're going to have some design work done to say what needs to be done to replace those washed out culverts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can help with the design, that'd be terrific. So I gather from talking to our highway folks that the DEC now looks upon on culverts, they try to avoid the round bottoms and prefer the flat bottoms. And then the span of it there are criteria for determining what that is, right?
Correct. DEC's requirements and the Corps is they like you to do 1.25 times bank full width. So bank full width will be called different by different people, but if you can get, good at it and you get indicators, but a lot of times around culverts, as you can see in some of these pictures Michelle provided, especially if the culvert is small, if it's undersized, that stream is going to be degraded around that culvert. So you typically have to either walk upstream or, downstream to try to get away from the influence of the culvert. The thing that I run into is then you're on people's private property. And so unless you have, but anyway, bank full is where the water starts to come out of the channel and spread on the floodplain. That's the technical description of it. And it's about a 2.5 year storm event. So it's where it comes out of the channel and starts to flatten out. But as you know, around here, you're talking about Danby, some of our streams are just really steep and they don't have that floodplain like you would, would expect. So so that's what DEC wants. They want the 1.25. There's also a new guidance out there that it's under review. And then DEC or DOT has their requirements. So it ends up being a process, trying to get everybody to agree on what you go with. And every site is different. It's hard to know, some sites need a box culvert because it won't pass the flows you need. And it's about the hydrology too. And DEC requires 20% embedment of that structure. They want that structure embedded with stream material in it. And that becomes an issue on our steeper slopes too. So we have to do some things to try to keep the material inside the culvert.
Have to keep it being undermined.
Yep, that's always, yeah. But the embedment they want for the stream material being in for passage, for aquatic passage.
Mark, you have your hand up?
Yeah. My internet's unstable, so I might go away, but so in this Western New York region, there's one GIS person that does this for a number of counties. Is that right? Is that something that you're thinking of here where we could have something comparable?
Yeah, so that person he doesn't do in the weeds GIS work, but he plays the administrative role so I should say that the effort in Western New York is unprecedented. They're dealing with that GIS, the ArcGIS, that's a global company and they're doing something that hasn't been done anywhere else to the level that they're doing it. So they have this administrative person who helps with the kinks that come up in the software. It helps with they're a technical support person for the vast number of highway municipal employees that have questions that come up. So they're not doing actual GIS work. I think they're primarily doing technical support in that way.
I see.
Yep. And I would really love to do a brainstorm about how this could potentially work, because I think between the savings of the GIS licensing, that's expensive, but if you pool it together, 8 counties wide, that's a great, you can get great deals. It becomes very affordable, and it's just so highly functional, and it's the direction that we have to go in. The fact that we don't have our assets mapped is just hamstring us. We need to, like all technological modernization, it's going to take a huge amount of money and effort to get, because we haven't been maintaining. Technology changes so quickly that it really is the future of how we're going to be able to plan for the future. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Another question. So I know that we have an inventory of our culverts, and I think that came from Soil and Water and maybe Cooperative Extension.
We have, so what we're working Yep, what we're working on is we have all the mapping, the stormwater mapping for the stormwater permit, so your MS4 permit. So it is, so for places like Caroline and Newfield and even the town of Lansing, it's a portion. I mean, it's a much bigger portion of the town of Lansing, and it's like all of the village of Lansing, it's all of Village of Cuba Heights, but for Caroline, it's like Brooktondale Road. But we've had other staff in the past, so we do have more than the urbanized area. But in that urbanized area, we have everything, like how the ditch connects to the catch basin, how the catch basin connects to the pipe, where it discharges, because DEC requires that. In other areas, we might just have the culvert that passes stream flow, and we've also done the NAC, the North Atlantic Aquatic Connectivity Collaborative. That's another thing with a lot of these grants. They want the NAC assessment. We've done a ton of those in the county. But all of our data is up on GIS. We collect everything with survey grade GPS, and then we upload it. Everything goes directly to ArcGIS online. So right now, those municipalities that have ArcGIS online, and we're also have TG Miller. I have them connected to the data. So any town that has an ArcGIS online account, I have them connected into our data right now. That's something that the Stormwater Coalition has been talking about too, is how do we make sure everybody in the coalition has access to this stormwater data. And this also goes in with Michelle's, like, we have all this data, the grant that I've had is I have an employee that's working to close it out for the stormwater stuff. So that's another part of this conversation that I'd hate to see this data just go, just get old and just get, useless. So that's the other thing where while we were collecting all this data that was required by the MS4 permit, we also did the NAC, that North Atlantic the collaborative, and all that stuff is all online with a mapper. So you can look it up yourself too. So
Can you add to it, or is it just to look at it?
no, you can't. The NAC stuff you can't add to, because the NAC is you got to be trained and certified. So
Mhm.
I have to, they have to, you have to read through a manual, and then you have to go out in the field and assess the culvert, and then I train people to do it, and then they've got to assess 20 culverts, and then they become certified. But I was sharing with Michelle just recently too, the NAC effort, they also have a protocol for assessing culverts for their condition, doing a condition analysis. So we're looking to get certified in that this month. Because right now we're just collecting the size of the culvert, the material, the location, the water body name, where it's discharging to. We're not currently assessing condition.
But you're positioning yourself to do it.
We will, I'm gonna try to get myself and my staff certified within the next month.
So what can we do to move in a direction that Michelle just identified as it would be nice if we had that kind of capability that they got in the western part of the state, um, to 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 have ourselves here in Tompkins County better connected and able to share information about culverts. And that's kind of a question for you, Angel, because if you're in seeking certification for evaluation, seems like we ought to be able to plug that into some sort of collaborative effort.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other side of this. I mean, we have we're doing everything on ArcGIS online right now. We pay for the programs to be able to assess culverts in the field, and the data gets uploaded. So the southern the region where they're collecting the assets of the southern tier west is, I think they're just collecting assets. I don't think they're doing assessment. I think they're collecting like signage and where the culverts are. I don't know all the details, but I don't think they're doing like condition assessment. I think it's just, what do we have and where are they? But I'm sure every town is different, right? So yeah, it just depends on where you know, people want to, I mean, ArcGIS Online is what we're using. So having, you know, being able to share that data first and have the municipalities be able to see what we have would be a good starting point.
So I do know, that GIS, GIS is the backbone of data management. And I know that the data fields associated with each culvert, I'm just going to keep on culverts here, you can add any data field you want at a local level. So those municipalities out in Western New York, they have different needs about the way that they operationally can maintain their data, but they're able to add data fields as their capacity grows. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are municipalities out there doing condition assessments for their assets. But Joel, I think really to answer your, like, what I think the answer to your question is that it's going to take a collaborative effort to try to find the money to make this happen. And, you know, we just heard from the county, we know that they're not growing. So I don't know what the answer is, but there,
You know of potential funding sources that we could
no, I don't. There might be federal grants, I suppose. I'm not convinced that our planning commission would be able to be the central leader in this, but because that model already exists, it's worth pursuing. I don't know, there was talk about Southern Tier West soliciting Southern Tier 8, which is where we are, in asking if they have interest in this, so we could sort of attach ourselves to their process, to Southern Tier West's process. I don't know where that went, how far that conversation went, but that would be the place that I would start, is asking our regional planning board commission about if they're willing to be the central admin point for this.
How about the Stormwater Coalition?
I'm not sure that they have the resources. I mean, they would definitely, absolutely be a collaborative partner in the process, but I don't think that they have the resources to support something like this, is my guess.
Robert, you have your hand up.
Yes, Angel knows me as the guy from Enfield who calls every month and pesters about the WQIP grant. And that brings up a subject. We know where one problem culvert is in our town, and the politicians crowed earlier this year to say we granted Enfield something like $900,000 to replace this culvert, and we can't get that money dislodged. And so if anybody in the other towns has the idea that they're going to replace a culvert, give yourself a lot of lead time, because we've got one that is a potential flood hazard. The money's been granted, but it's kind of locked up, as Angel tells me. And maybe she can tell me a little bit more and tell the rest of us what the procedure is, why it takes so long to get it from grant stage to construction stage.
It's, so he's talking about WQIP. And so, you know, they typically announce the awards and anywhere from January to March, but you have to get a contract in place with the state. So that's what takes so long. If people are familiar, then you're used to it. But I don't know if this year it's even worse than previous years, because they transferred over to a new statewide financial system, SFS. So there hasn't been any contracts that have come through yet in what was awarded this year from last year. So you can't do anything until you have that contract in place. You can't, because if you do, you'll basically, you can't get reimbursed for it. So if you start something, or you hire an engineering firm, or you start your engineering, you cannot get paid for that time. So it's the process of waiting for a grant. I work with other people in my office who do the agricultural side of things, and things are just still, it's just a slow process. So the contracting aspect of it, and I think with a new financial system, state system is just taking even that much longer. So unfortunately, there were multiple culverts that were awarded Enfield last year, and Caroline, they had two, and still there's no contracts in place. So it's something to plan for. You know, you want to start your grant applications way before that culvert absolutely needs to be replaced, but unfortunately that's not always, you know, the situation. Is there's an issue and that culvert needs to be replaced. So you do the best you can, but it's a frustrating thing, but
So the opposite of chips, where you front the money and get reimbursed. If you start to do anything, you can't get reimbursed.
Right.
correct. And it all has to be done during the contract period, and you get 25% upfront. That the other part of it, and then you have to pay full and then get reimbursed. So that becomes an issue too. Sometimes it's an issue for us.
Yes.
But I recall the original grant award said it had to be done by the end of 2025. We've already spent this construction season. No sense of getting it done this year. It won't get done. So you've got just 1 year to do something, and maybe it can be extended, maybe it can't. But the bureaucracy frustrates us.
Yeah, when that contract comes through with the state, you'll set a timeline. So that shouldn't be an issue, but you know, if it comes through, you're gonna, you know, you'll set your contract for a few years to give yourself some time.
Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, I just wanted, it seems like this kind of speaks to Michelle's point, as I understand it, that, you know, by managing these assets
Uh-oh.
and planning for this time that it's going to take, that's what you have to incorporate into your thinking, because it does take a long time. And I can tell you, yes, the contract deadlines can be extended. So from personal experience.
Yeah, I'll just say that I was pretty shocked with the DEC contract process myself. We got DEC funding to do an engineering report and design for 5 large culverts that are problematic. And I was pretty astounded by the contract process with DEC specifically. But yes, the contract end dates can absolutely be extended.
Is there some collective action to be taken about this that anybody can point to? I mean, you've done a great job, Michelle, in sort of making us aware of what we don't have and ought to have. But I don't see a clear path to get to from where we are to where we might want to go.
Yeah, I would say step one is that, you know, trying to you know, let it be known to Southern Tier 8 that there is interest in this in Tompkins County, that countywide we, you know, would be very invested in this process and very interested in it. So, you know, making connections with that entity, I think, is a good first step. I'm not sure, like I said, I don't know if they're the ones to do it, but because it's already been repeated elsewhere, we might as well try there first, you know.
Are you willing to be our lead in that regard?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I would have to talk to Caitlin about that. I'm actually dropping down to about 5 hours a week starting in September. I'm going back to grad school. So my time is going to be really limited. I wish I could. That is exactly what I want to do, Joel. If I could, I would. But it wouldn't happen on a good timeline if I was the point person.
It might happen on a better timeline if you're not.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Is anybody else who feels like they want to sort of take that on?
Does anyone have any connections there? Is my question is who's got it in with that entity?
Right. So we do have a seat, the Commissioner of Planning and Sustainability, Katie Morgella, is on that board, as well as one of the legislators, and now I can't think of who it is. But I'll let her know about this discussion and, but maybe it's even one of those Southern Tier Western ST8 conversations so that they know what they're talking about, but we could discuss it from our end as well.
That sounds like a path forward to me.
I was
That'd be very-
trying not to volunteer to do anything.
To volunteer Katie instead. That's very good. Well, let's hope she picks up on it. But sharing that information with her is a good start. Okay, moving on. I hope the Haley's here, right?
Yep, I'm here.
There you go. If you would pick up the ball and run with it regarding
Sure.
EVs.
Sure. So you might remember a while ago I came to you all to talk about an EV charging as a service RFP that the county would release, and many of you submitted sites. Those responses have come back, and so this is just a plug that tomorrow at 11, I will be having a meeting to discuss all of those responses and any questions that you may have. And so it's limited to just municipalities that have sites that they submitted, but just wanted to have a public reminder here.
Right. And it were very interesting responses too.
Yes, yes, we did get some good ones for sure.
So that's tomorrow, not tomorrow, Friday. Wait a minute. Tomorrow is Friday, right?
Yes.
Tomorrow morning at 11. And we'll take it from there. Well, that's pretty brief.
Yep, that's all I got for you today.
Yeah. Any questions for Haley that cannot be addressed in the morning? Okay. Thanks, Haley. The Laserfish update. Long-awaited topic. Who's here to address that?
I am Maureen
Oh,
Reynolds.
Maureen. Hi, Maureen.
Hey,
Welcome.
so I'm not sure, Lauren couldn't make it today. He's at a conference. So I was asked to come in and answer any questions that I could answer. I'll answer IT ones for him too. I'll just make it up as I go along, but
Mm-hmm.
I can try to answer any questions you might have, or I can talk about it. I'm not sure what the discussion has been in the past.
Well, I mean, what we had and where we left off with this was there were just a bunch of rumors flying around. The county's going to discontinue Laserfish.
No, I don't know where that started.
Yeah.
Laserfish is my child. I started it back in 2009.
Uh-huh.
I started the shared services portion back in 2012. Our system and what we've done is nationally recognized across the nation of what we've done. Most counties in New York State are trying to catch up now, and it's kind of fun to watch them do what we've done. So no, Laserfish is a great software. I attend the conferences. They're growing into the future. So whatever we need, we only utilize a little bit of Laserfish just because of time and money, but it's just an amazing software. So the county is staying with Laserfish. I get great grants. I get grant funding from the state based on the work we've done and the history of what we've done. Our reputation is out there. So yeah, no, Laserfish is staying.
I guess the other question is where, given that it is staying, is whether it's the framework that can be expanded upon or whether it's limited in its scope and applicability.
Well, currently my office does not have anyone that can do programming. So what we do is we work with the town clerks, code enforcement, the courts in each municipality, different levels based on what they need. And so we help them on the front end on anything they need. If it's something that needs IT, that would be something that I would, direct to IT to see if they have the time to do it. If it's something more complicated, then it would have to be something we would work with our vendor, and there would be they would charge us for that.
So in my experience, which is limited, Laserfiche was a tremendous opportunity for us to move away from paper in the municipalities into an electronic record storage.
Yes.
Yes. And but the limitation was that it was basically sort of photographic. It wasn't really searchable in terms of content,
It
other
is
than
searchable.
titles.
Yeah, so it's all optical character recognition, so you can search any word in it. If old handwriting, it can't read very well. Oops,
Uh-huh.
my
You
little
do have
problem.
some of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so like currently in my office, in the county clerk's office, we have no books anymore. In the county record center, there is none anymore. So we've moved that way, and everything is searchable. Sometimes people want you to over-index, which is very time-consuming and costly by staff. But optical character recognition is so good that you don't have to do as much indexing as people would think. So I mean, if
search by word.
municipalities have questions about it, I'm more than happy to talk to each one about it. Sometimes their ideas are massive, but it's not really that big. So if they want to run it by me, I can, direct them on what we can and cannot do. And what would need more IT support, because that's, you talk IT, my eyes roll back in my head. So, but definitely my office, myself and Rachel Graham in my office are devoted to Laserfiche. It's an amazing product. So.
Are there any constraints as far as, what can be stored there, or?
No, not that I found yet.
Terrific. I'm not sure who put their hand up first.
But video,
yeah,
a lot of bandwidth.
I don't know. Robert?
I'm very glad to hear what Maureen has just told me. We have a very happy town clerk as a result. I know when the rumor first circulated, and I think it circulated at the town supervisors meeting and then got carried to TCOG earlier this year. Our town clerk, Mary Cornell, was very concerned. She said, "Don't get rid of Laserfiche. It saves me every day."
It does.
And if there are any questions or improvements that she might like to make, because she has mentioned a few of them to me along the way, she should get in touch with you.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Good enough. Thank you.
If we can handle it right away, we will. If not, something we can look at writing a grant and getting grant money for. So.
Thank you.
Norma.
As a new person here, I wasn't sure. I was having trouble getting my hand up and down here. I just wanted to share, so maybe a little bit of what the conversation has been is related to maintaining the hardware on the back end. So I've talked to Lauren a little bit about this, and due to some cybersecurity issues and the size of the server, because everything that's hosted, as I understand it, everything that's hosted for the municipalities and for the county, it sits on on hardware here at the county. So we have to maintain that server and make sure that we have the bandwidth and the ability to continue to expand on that. So I had not heard Lauren say that was going to go away in any way, shape, or form. It's the question of expansion of the size of the server. Another thing that has come up, and I thought I would share with you folks, is the fact that some of the, I guess, just if there's information that's in there that could be removed, that would be encouraged. So if you've got some old data in there that doesn't need to be there anymore and it is taking up some space, it would be great if those things could be removed from the server. So just as a cleanup. And then the other item I was jotting down is there'll be some pretty serious focus on cybersecurity beginning. It's already begun, and that will continue. So if there's going to have to be any changes, Maureen has already said, if we need to go out and look for grants or whatever to help us boost those servers, she would help to do that. So she's working directly with the ITS department on that. She doesn't want to do the technology, but she's certainly happy to help with them with updates. So I just thought I would share that information to the best. That's the best I can share. I don't have all of the details on the mechanics of the hardware, but I do know that that has been might be one of the concerns or one of the reasons why folks were thinking that there was some idea that that was going to be abandoned. I don't think that was ever the intent. The concern is the size of the server. How much more can it take? How much expansion can it take? That kind of thing is what we really want to be considerate of. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but just wanted to share that information.
The word is piggybacking of the code office data an unwelcome addition, or can we all do that? Or
Well, I think there's a problem with we've scanned most code enforcement offices and all the records, the building permits. I think developing the software further to do tasks, so to do things that a code enforcement software would do, would take money.
I think Cuba Heights has already done it.
Yeah, they had someone that worked there at the time that was really good. She's since left Cuba Heights. So she did a lot of that development along with the county IT staff. So she worked with them and she was really good at it.
Mark.
Great. Just thank you, Maureen, for this. This is really great. And I just kind of wanted to ask or point out, I mean, this is basically a free resource or service from the county for municipalities, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Free or low cost, you have to pay sometimes support or something, but yes, I write the grants, I manage the contracts, I do the project management. We build and import the repositories, we work with the staff, but it's because we love it. We love it. We don't, I want to retire one day and say that I helped Tompkins County get rid of paper.
Yeah.
With the evolution of software for managing, clerk's offices and code officers and planning offices, the coming with that is more and more, of our information is being stored in the cloud. And we have a new town clerk who's very, very much reliant on Laserfish. The previous town clerk didn't put anything in Laserfish, she put everything in electronic storage. How do you see that going forward as this evolution in technology, and do you think it will diminish the need for Laserfish, or should there be total redundancy just for safety's sake? Or
well, we work with each individual municipality on what their needs are and what their skills are. We can definitely look at Laserfish in the cloud in the future. Currently, how our repositories are done, because we host for so many municipalities, we can't do Laserfish cloud. So we have to do it on premises. We have to do all the backup on the servers on premises currently. But we will definitely work with anyone who comes to us. The town clerks know me, the building departments know me, the courts know me, so always willing to help. I love Laserfish, so.
I could tell. Other questions for Maureen? Thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Sure, anytime.
On to committee reports. Caitlin's here this time. We missed you last time.
I am here this time. I was not here last time. So we have not had a committee meeting, and Joel is on my committee. And what I was wondering is, I think at least my takeaway from today is that the future right of our municipalities is looking to go paperless. It's looking to develop software, and it's really all about making choices and figuring out options and figuring out what's best for each of us. And so I was going to propose, if there was any enthusiasm within TCOG, that what this committee could do is really benefit from trying to figure out what different options there are. For instance, I know our town is trying to look at doing building permitting, doing those things online. But what's the best choice for us? Is it Laserfiche? And so I think that I wanted to throw that out there because I think this correlates to what Michelle was presenting on, that there are all these potential opportunities, but how do we actually execute them? How do we actually figure out what might work for our municipalities and what kind of support we need to make that happen? So I'd like to throw that out there to see if there's any interest in doing it.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I think a need to discern whether we might, at a minimum, profit from collectively evaluating the options. Because I mean, doing it all on our own is a lot of work, and it doesn't really look at the potential for collaboration in the end product. We just opted in for cloud permit, for instance, for our code and planning offices. I think Caroline's done that too. That seems like something that would have been really nice to do countywide if we had our act together to do it. There should be some potential for cost savings if we weren't, each acting individually.
Well, Joel, I don't think Rowan's on the call today, but why don't I reach out to both of you and maybe we can continue this conversation, because I really do think there's some synergy there that we could build on, because nobody has time to investigate all these avenues independently. And so maybe we could pull everybody to find out what interest there is for different type of services of modernization effectively, and see if there's any compatibility, even countywide or even just among municipalities participating together to purchase subscriptions.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a reasonable proposal to me. Anyone else have any thoughts? Okay. We'll look to you to convene us.
Sounds good.
Emergency planning and preparation. That would be Mark, right?
Yep. Thanks, Joel. Just a brief report. Our subcommittees still meeting monthly, and Mike and Joe are tracking the activity of the countywide emergency response program.
Mm-hmm.
It is going in action during the recent storm events, supporting local responders. So things are going, I think, very well. They seem pleased with the program. They are in. Mike said they'd be interested in any feedback from local municipalities, either residents or municipal officials. So if you do have feedback, they're all ears.
I have heard
So that's
nothing. Probably a good thing.
Yeah. And yeah, so and I'll just leave it at that. I think at the last meeting I suggested putting forward a resolution to advocate for state support for funding for local emergency response. Drafting a resolution to put forward at the.
Yeah, you're coming and going. I see your unstable internet is impeding. We'll do Mark altogether.
He appears frozen.
He does indeed.
Yeah, so what he was going to say is that we're interested in petitioning the state to step up with emergency response funding and to formalize a CHIP-style program that would allocate money to counties and further develop the infrastructure we need for emergency services, because what we have right now is not sustainable. I think we all know that. What we've done with RMR is a Band-Aid, and we're glad that the county responded. But the pressure, frankly, on the town of Dryden and the town of Ulysses and Trumansburg Ambulance is really disproportionate. We raise about $8 million in our tax levy for town services, including ambulance. 1.2 million of that goes to Dryden Ambulance. A third of Dryden Ambulance. Let me just finish. A third of Dryden Ambulance's calls go outside of Dryden. So we are basically subsidizing other municipalities, not just in Tompkins County, but mostly in Tompkins County. And it's just, it's not sustainable and it's not fair. And that's one of the reasons the county stepped up. And I see Dan Klein. Thank you, Dan. And thank you for supporting this program. But we have a problem right now on how we provide ambulance services, not just light rescue, but ambulance. And the folks at Dryden Ambulance are more than frustrated. They're given, I've been meeting with them, the chair of the ambulance board over there just this month, and they want me to put out the word that this is not sustainable. What's being asked of their services to go so much outside of our jurisdiction where we have a CON, from the state. So I just want to plant the seed that this is something that's got to be reformed. I don't know if the state's going to fix it in time. I hope they do, but we've got to come up with a better system.
Well, where we are in the legislative calendar does present us an opportunity to do a petition or a resolution to advocate. So that could have come back to this meeting because it was on the agenda. I mean, it was talked about last time, but it did not. Can we get something together to propose for the next meeting?
Yeah, sure. Now, that's what Mark was indicating. We're happy to petition the state like we always do for a whole host of things, but that doesn't alleviate the immediate problem that we have.
No.
Our professional ambulance services that we have in this county. We have a situation where Bangs goes where the density is. They have a different mission. They're a for-profit ambulance service. Dryden Ambulance is not. Neither is a Trumansburg Ambulance.
Yeah.
So we'll go out and we'll answer these calls, but we're paying a price for it. We'll go out and we'll answer the call where no service is actually needed, but nobody reimburses Dryden Ambulance for a call where the person just fell down or the person just got scared and they called an ambulance. So dispatch sends out Dryden Ambulance. We go there, we get no reimbursement, or the reimbursement we get, it only covers a fraction of the cost. Bangs Ambulance is operating under a different model. They're doing a lot more transport, taking a lot more patients up to Syracuse. They're out of the county. And without Dryden Ambulance, without Trumansburg Ambulance, you really just have two ambulance vehicles in the county. But with Groton Ambulance, but Groton Ambulance is having a lot of trouble. And we answer a lot of Groton calls. Frankly, most of our calls go to Groton. So this model is it's not fair to Dryden taxpayers. I'll just come out because that's my responsibility, and that's why I'm bringing it up. It's not a fun topic, and but I got to put it out there because we're going to do something about it.
Wasn't RMS intended to address some of that problem?
RMR, Rapid Medical Response, is light rescue. Right. They don't do transport, and they've been to Dryden exactly once.
Oh, no kidding.
Because we cover our own calls.
Yeah. Tim.
Hey, Dan, I'm just curious whether Dryden's also experiencing a volunteer crunch.
Well, we've addressed it by paying them more. So, we have paid EMS, EMT. We have volunteers too, but we pay. And that's where a lot of this money goes. The 1.2 million that we spend on ambulance services in the town of Dryden. And we're not the wealthy town in the county, but we have a tradition of running an ambulance service. It's part of our culture here, and we're very proud. But the industry has changed, and the cost of operating ambulance services have changed, and the dependency on ambulance as first line medical response and people's primary care, believe it or not, is changing, and ambulances are more and more offering primary care, which is ridiculous. but
Yeah.
that's what I do. And it's something that's got, I'm petitioning, I'm talking to our state and federal reps. I talked to Mark Molinaro's staff about this. I've talked to Leah's staff. I've talked to Senator Gillibrand's staff. They understand that this is a bigger issue than just the town of Dryden. We've got a crisis going on here.
And it's statewide too. It's not just like a local thing.
Yeah, it is statewide, and we need exposure to the problem, and that's one of the things we can do with our resolution, which is something that Mark and I and Roden will have ready for the next meeting.
Okay.
But I just can't emphasize the size of this problem enough, because I think it really hits at a lot of security that we want and people's sense of safety. And all right, that's my torch. I'll turn it off.
Okay, thanks. Any more than that?
I don't have anything more, Joel.
Yeah. Welcome back, Mark. We noticed you're kind of froze and dropped out there.
Yeah.
So how long before we get Dryden fiber to solve your problem there with your connectivity?
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
We have to spend that money by the end of 2026. So you guys all heard that we got $9 million from the state, which is
fantastic.
It's for a joint project, which town of Dryden and town of Caroline are going to put together. But with great money comes great responsibility.
Yeah, there's a terrific development, especially since there was this carve out specifically for municipal broadband, and Dryden was the only one in the state, so it's kind of like definitely not only just pioneers, but well positioned to take advantage of that.
Yeah, timing worked for us on this one. We had a program set up that was basically shovel ready for this program. So
yeah.
We hit that sweet spot.
Yep. Fantastic. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, we did plan for that too. So
yes, indeed. Energy. Right.
This will be brief. A few of us met, I think just last week. The last couple of meetings that the Energy Committee has sponsored have been great, but they've been really just about sharing information. I think everyone recognizes it's easier to kind of have a committee come together when there's sort of a key focus that you can do research on and education on. So we're going to go on pause and check in again at the end of the year to see if something has surfaced. We thought at one point the community choice aggregation, which we now label Tompkins Green Energy Network, would be a key focus, but the Public Service Commission has really delayed that. And the news is that they aren't happy with 3 of the existing CCA administrators, so have been stepping back. So it might still be a while before it has nothing to do with the CCA administrator that we were proposing. So we're petitioning to try to move that forward, but it's probably going to take a few more months. I mean, there are other energy issues too, but some of them are in a state of flux. So we're pausing. So that's the news. The Energy Committee is pausing. We'll regroup at the end of the year to see if something emerges as a focus for 2025. Any questions?
It's really too bad the things that there's that slowing in the process because of the urgency of the need. But
for the CCA, yeah, we submitted our application in August of last year, thinking it would just be a couple of months to hear back. So anyway, stay tuned. And I think there's a meeting in early December. So our goal is to meet before that to see if something emerges to propose as a focus. So that's it.
Okay. Chuck, some of us were hoping we could have our municipalities jump in on the Ithaca bandwagon here by now, but the wagon stuck in the mud, so to speak.
It is.
Transportation, Robert.
Yes, good afternoon. I sent you a written summary earlier this afternoon. Maybe some have read it, maybe some have not. No big change as far as electric buses are concerned. The 7 Proterra buses still out of service. TCAT says most likely they always will be out of service, and they really don't know how they're going to get any of their money back on that. They're looking into it. As Patty Poist of TCAT, the communications and marketing manager, said, it's obviously a complex situation with no timetable for a resolution. You may have heard, and I did report that earlier this month on the 9th, TCAT did get a Federal Transit Administration grant to purchase 2 uh, uh,
Hybrids.
Diesel electric buses.
Mhm.
And the problem is, of course, supply chain. There'll be another year or so before they arrive. Previously, I reported that TCAT's buying some diesel buses to tide them over. They're going to be delayed probably for a year before they get them. So right now, the general manager, Matthew Rosenblum Jones, has said, we may buy some used buses. And I'm told that Albany may have them for sale. So that may provide some additions to the fleet, because right now that fleet is depleted. I think the latest report showed, well, there's supposed to be, of the 53 that the bus system has, 42 should be operational at any time. Right now it's down to 28, and that
Wow.
includes the 7 that are sidelined. That's subtracted from the overall number of 42. So that gets it down. There's more buses that have to be repaired, either in shop, or they're waiting for repairs, or they're being shipped out to be repaired. So again, they still have that bottleneck with too few buses. And of course, there's always a driver problem. They're trying to rectify that, but that's kind of in a holding pattern right now. And they are reporting that their June ridership was up from June of last year, but not as high as June of 22, and certainly not as high as June of 2019 before the pandemic. So that, in a nutshell, is what's going on with the bus system, and we'll just have to stay tuned. They're working as hard as they can. Maybe those used buses will help.
Was there any thought to because there wasn't a problem with the drivetrain with the Proterra buses, of using the the drive components from those buses in a sort of I call it a heart transplant, to taking out the guts of the diesel bus that's towards the end of its life, and making an electric drivetrain.
Again, that's beyond my expertise. I presume it's much more complicated than that. I know they had that one bus that they talked about where the frame was separating, and they had
Yes.
other buses that were taken out of service, same Proterra buses, because the batteries were had problematic or whatever. Could you take the goods out of one thing and put it into another and make one good electric bus? I couldn't tell you. You'd have to ask the people there. Probably not. They probably say if one frame is starting to separate, maybe they'd all separate, and they really don't want to be driving an unsafe bus.
Sure. That's why I was wondering whether you could be sort of take what's good of them and put them in another vehicle altogether. But
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's the current situation. I guess it's been worse, but they'd like it to be a whole lot better.
The good news is you have a really good person at the helm.
Yeah.
I've been impressed anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. They're trying to do the best they can, and it's just they're frustrated.
Anything else on that topic? All right. Items for next agenda. Apart from the resolutions coming from the Emergency Response Committee. Mark.
Yeah, I have a couple other thoughts. One is we were contacted by a representative from CAB
Uh-oh.
big trucks. And he gave us a presentation at our town board meeting on why increasing the maximum weight and length limits for semi-tractor trailers on interstate highways is a bad idea. And we passed a resolution supporting this and sent it to Senators Gillibrand and Schumer and Representative Molinaro, which is what he was. So apparently there was no spill, but there's apparently a talk of this that goes around. So their organization, CABT, advocates against increasing these size limits. You can Google up CABT and get all their information, but obviously when you get increased weight, the stopping distance increases dramatically. Just the hazards on the roads, the wear on the roads, it's all stops or starts not on a local road. They all have to get to local roads. So it impacts not just the interstates, but also local roads. So anyway, I suggested that he might want to come talk to us at TCOG, and he was excited to do that. I suggested the next meeting, which I believe is September 27th. Is that right?
26.
Is that Taylor chiming in? Yes?
Okay.
We're not hearing you.
September 26th.
Okay.
Yeah. At 2, we just changed it to.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thanks. So that's.
So might there be a resolution in conjunction with that presentation?
Well, there could be, but or if that might
Well, I
maybe
mean,
I was thinking
you
the
know,
resolution might come after the presentation.
Sure. But on the other hand, not without a couple months delay. So if it's timely, you having something to consider might facilitate action, even if we could always delay action if there questions or concerns that's not appropriate at that point. But on the other hand, if you'd like to consider it, it'd be nice to have something there you ready to go.
Okay, I'd be happy to provide a resolution. Just modify the one that we did at the town of
Yeah,
Carroll.
right.
Okay.
Great. And you had another one, did you say?
Yeah, the other item I thought of consolidating their court. I was wondering if it might be worthwhile to gather countywide information for each municipality to sort of evaluate this on a town by town or municipality level.
How should we handle that in terms of the meeting? We should just have a discussion about it, or prison. Maybe it'd be nice to have some data ahead of it, but how would we gather it? How would we get it? What's the best way to bring it to this group to talk about?
I'm not sure. I guess I was thinking of what we need is the information for each of the courts to sort of gauge this. Town of Ulysses website, you can find I don't know if it was a public hearing they had on it, but you can find the information. And I think Judge Dresser wrote a letter supporting the consolidation, and I thought his letter was very compelling. So he noted centralized arraignment, and and noted that the caseloads for their court had during his tenure. So
I gather it changed dramatically when arraignments moved to a central process.
Yeah.
And with bail reform.
So I don't know. So maybe each municipality could provide the information for their court or something to compile or put together or for discussion, or
could you
they'll have other ideas.
draft something to send to the membership basically and suggest or request that the data be compiled so we could then have a discussion at the next meeting?
I guess so. Just a request for their court data.
Yeah, because it would inform the discussion, you know.
Okay. So should I have that, what, sent to me or what?
Well,
thinking of
basically, yeah, that's a good question. It makes sure, why not?
being a
Yeah. Robert.
Yeah, regarding court consolidation, this came up in Enfield about a year ago because we had a longtime town justice who retired, and it was time to reevaluate things, whether we would want to consolidate with another town. And we did a calculation that we really didn't save any money as a town, the way the state law works, in terms of consolidation. So that may be a question that will arise because state law may limit the ability of town courts to merge and have any appreciable savings. It's worth looking into. It's worth studying. Certainly, I would welcome that conversation. But having gone through it in Enfield about a year ago and having decided to keep things the way they were, there's a possibility that that may be what TCOG as a whole may recommend.
Yeah, and there was, I mean, obvious savings if you go from 2 justices to 1. And again, if you abolish the local court, as has happened in a couple of municipalities where they just, a village decided they don't really need one and the town can handle it. But there's that. But anyway, the scope of what can be done is a reasonable topic of conversation. And that should be informed by data, so that it would be good to have that, evaluation of where we are, what the impacts of changes have been in terms of the loads that the justices are carrying, and what the potential savings are if based on the various actions that could be taken in response. Mark.
Yeah. Hey, Joel. So I just wanted to clarify, and I used the word consolidation after what Caitlin was doing for Ulysses, which was going from 2 to 1 justice. So it could be in a conversation as well with actual merging. I think I agree with Robert that that's much more complicated. But I was really thinking of situations where towns might be faced with evaluating whether they need 1 or 2 justices.
Well, we in Enfield did that many, many years ago. We used to have 2 justices and we condensed it down to 1 justice, and we have no problem with that. But I see where you're coming from. And there may be an opportunity for towns, and they could do this by themselves, I would think. They wouldn't need to have anybody else sign off on it to go from 2 justices to 1. You may need a referendum on that, but I don't think you would need to have any outside influence on that. But yes, I would think that some towns and also towns that have included villages may find some efficiencies in going down to just 1 combined town/village justice. That may work. In terms of 1 town merging its services with another, that's a broader conversation.
Yeah.
That's very difficult to effect given the rules of state level. Yeah. But we can explore all of that in the conversation next time. Anything else for next time?
I have 2 other items.
Is that Taylor?
Yes, so we have 2 other items. We have a report from Jerry Shang on feasibility and recommendations for adopting the national flood insurance policy and the rating system. And then we'll also have a cybersecurity update from Lauren Cottrell.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. I see our numbers dwindling here. And it's time anyway. So thank you all. I think we can, with that, adjourn the meeting. Thanks.
Happy
Thanks,
summer.
everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.